I've always been a rebel, never did quite things like I was expected to do. I was not expected to walk. I was not expected to go to any kind of school. I was not expected to marry, have children. And here I am. I have an education. Of course, I'm walking, definitely. I even finished a marathon here in Los Angeles, 26.2 miles. And I have a son and I have 3 grandchildren.
Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Bucciolano. As I've told you many times, I've traveled millions of miles around this world and met some fascinating people. I have a lady on today who I've known for some time now, and I actually introduced you to her on a previous show. She's a dear friend of mine. Her name is Miss Sabine Becker. And Sabine has recently written a book that has just become published, and I read it and thought it was fabulous. And it's called The Rebel's Guide to the Power of P.U.S.H. And this is a rebel, and this is a lady who pushes. She perseveres. Sabine has been persevering all her life. She was a child born with the stimuli of Thalidomide and how it affected her. And you will see easily that she was born with short arms. That never stopped her. She never saw herself as being inferior or incapable of doing anything. God bless her. She's a dynamo, an absolute dynamo. So please welcome my friend, Sabine Becker. Sabine, welcome to the show again.
Hello, Carl. Oh, it's so good to see you. Really good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while, but it's always a real treat to be on your show and just to speak to you.
And for you, you're an inspiration to me. You really are. I think you're a marvelous person. And you have this theme that you carry with you that says the Rebel's Guide. And then what it means is that you never quit. There is nothing that stops you. And I know a lot about your life. We'll talk about those things. We'll talk about the hardships that you experience. But you're a true hero, a true fighter. You make things happen. And so tell
Yes.
us a little bit about Sabine. Tell us, because I know people who saw your show before, and a couple of thousand of them did see it on my show before. But there are some people out there now who might not know your backstory. So tell us a little bit of your backstory.
Okay, here we go, Carl.
Okay, here we go.
My name is Sabine. Obviously, I was already introduced by Carl. And as you can probably hear, I was born in Germany. I still have that accent, although I immigrated into the United States in 1988. That's a long, long, long time ago. And I've been a U.S. citizen since 2000, I think. And I came to the world, as you can see, a little bit different because my mom took thalidomide, a drug which was prescribed freely to pregnant women to help them with morning sickness, insomnia, and also anxiety. And in those days, I was born the beginning of 1960s. Those days, you did not question your doctors. He or she told you you have to take a pill, you just did it. And the thalidomide was not researched properly, and that's why about the numbers are not always clear, but about 20,000 babies were born with disabilities the world hasn't seen before, and I'm one of them. And 60% of all thalidomide babies never saw their first birthday. That's a humongous number, and that's why I always have considered myself as a survivor. And that's what I call myself. I'm a survivor, and I'm a doer, and I'm passionate about life because I got that chance to be here in this world and make a difference for people. And I'm also a rebel because I rebel
Yes, you
against
are.
adversity. I just am.
You certainly are.
I think the title of the Rebel's Guide is really very appropriate because I've always been a rebel, never did quite things like I was expected to do. I was not expected to walk. I was not expected to go to any kind of school. I was not expected to marry, have children. And here I am. I have an education. Of course, I'm walking, definitely. I even finished a marathon here in Los Angeles, 26.2 miles. And I have a son and I have 3 grandchildren. That's why I've always considered myself as a rebel.
which means she rebelled against anyone who said to her, "No, you can't. No, you can't do that."
Absolutely.
And she said, "Yes, I can do that." And she proved them wrong every time. Now, did you hear what this woman just
Absolutely.
said? A marathon runner. She drives her own car.
Yes.
She's an
Yes. Yes.
author. She is a speaker, motivational speaker all over the
Mhm.
world. People love
Yeah.
to have her
Yeah.
come in and spark up their sales force and
Yes.
spark up their associations because too many people are into gloom and doom. "Oh, I can't do this." Can't. This woman doesn't know the word can't. There's no such thing in her vocabulary. So she is a survivor of thalidomide. And
Yeah.
thalidomide was, at a time in history, a very well
Yeah.
known problem for the pharmaceutical companies. And there was, in
Absolutely.
later years, a trial in Germany to determine cause and fault and to pay uh, tribute to people and
Mm.
restitution to people who were scarred by this drug. And I think they were awarded something like 100 German marks, which today is somewhere, 100 million German marks, which today is something like 52 million euros. When you
Yeah.
think about,
Yeah.
the awards that happen for pharmaceutical failures today,
Yeah.
that's a drop in the bucket. That's
Yeah.
nothing. 52
Yeah.
million euros, even in today's rate, to support all of that damage for 20,000 families.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible, terrible shortfall. So,
Yeah.
would you like to talk a little bit about that? I know you were you wrote it in your book. And this is a marvelous book. I want to say again, get the book and read it. She told me she published it finally because we've been talking back and forth for a year. And she's telling me it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. When she said she published it, I bought it the very
Yeah.
same day. I got it off Amazon. So I had to wait a couple of days to get it. So you know about a trial lawyer and a doctor who took them on and said, "No, this won't do." So tell us that story a little bit. What you wrote about her in
Yeah.
the book.
Right. Several doctors, number one, warned against thalidomide in the early 60s. In 1960, they already warned against it. But the pharmaceutical company Grünenthal, Chemie Grünenthal, which is still exists and a profitable, super profitable company, they still are. They have their headquarters in Germany. They still pushed the drug through, and I should never have been born the way I am had they done the right thing. And therefore, because there was so much damage, and I'm really one of the lucky ones because I have healthy legs, I'm a healthy person. All I have are these little arms. But some people really I have had many, many more health concerns. And that's why in the early 1970s, I think 1970 or 1971, there was this trial, and it was a massive trial right after the famous Nazi Nuremberg trial. It was
Uh,
at the time the second biggest trial in German history. But I don't anymore know the details of it. Grünenthal, Chemie Grünenthal got off cheap. And I'm saying cheap, you just mentioned the number. I think I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's 52 million euro in
yeah,
today's money. That's a drop in the bucket because many of us, fortunately, I'm a little bit, you know, sort of lucky. I've always said it, I'm lucky. I don't live in poverty, but many, many thalidomide survivors live in poverty because they just don't have the means to support themselves. And there was, they started to pay us a lump sum of, I don't know, I don't want to throw any numbers out, but it was a minute amount. And then monthly, I remembered receiving 250 German marks at that time.
yeah,
Now I
yeah.
cannot calculate that into US dollars. I remember in the early 2000s, I got 700 US dollars. I mean, I still remember that very well. You can't live of 700
Of
US
course not.
dollars. And then the thalidomide survivors raised up. Now we have a bit more, but it's not, if you don't have any other income, it's still not
Not
enough.
enough to sustain you. No, of course
Yeah,
not.
it's
But you,
it, the thalidomide. I just want to say that the thalidomide tragedy was a tragedy, no doubt. But then how cheap Grünenthal got off, that was on top. That's just was insulting.
Yeah.
And I have the
That was
numbers in
terrible.
the book for anybody who is interested to look at the numbers. I did a lot of research. It just, yeah, there,
Okay. But that is a
profit
tragedy
over, yeah, yeah,
that is a tragedy that happened to you, but
yeah,
you were determined not to let it hold you down.
no,
And you early light in life realized that if you were
yeah,
going to get anywhere in life, you had to persevere. You had to push through things. I know you had a
absolutely.
wonderful family who supported you, and I
Yes.
know that the culture in Germany at the time was to look down at people who were invalids
Mhm,
or
mhm.
you know, birth deficiencies and so forth. But your parents were very strong, loving parents,
Yes,
and they
yes,
supported you.
absolutely,
That was what a wonderful gift God gave you to help you get through that. But on your own,
absolutely.
you developed a mantra, and that mantra was push, keep pushing.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
folks. Now, look,
Keep
I sound like a
pushing.
big
Goodness.
jerk over here making this sound simple, but that's only because of my love for this woman. This is a very
Mm,
serious matter, and she took it
yeah,
extremely seriously. And she
yes.
dedicated her life to improve herself and overcome these things and work through. So tell the people what push means.
PUSH. It's an acronym, as you can see, P-U-S-H, and it stands for persevere until success happens. So what that means, you actually really, there are several pieces to the push. One of the biggest things when adversity hits, what helps me the most, it's hope. Because it's so easy to get lost. Oh my gosh, adversity, adversity. What am I going to do? Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I always start with hope. I'm telling myself, I can get through this. Absolutely. And the first thing is hope. And then you know what, Kyle? I'm telling you, the second step is action. That's one of the big steps of push because hope is good. But if you don't follow hope up with
Right.
action, hope is like a wish or a dream or a,
Yeah.
I don't know, a fire without fuel, however you want to say it. So I
Yes.
am a doer, Khan. I just do things, no matter how, or no matter what, and no matter when I need to do them. So people really have to take action and find somewhere the resilience and the perseverance and the courage. It takes a lot of courage to take on the push mantra, my philosophy, my push philosophy. It takes courage because sometimes it's just easier to sit back and say, oh,
Yeah.
I cannot do it. But yes, you can. You just have to look for how you can reframe the obstacles, how you can reframe adversity. Because I think almost all adversity, you can reframe that it's some opportunity for growth, opportunity for self-development, or opportunity just for better possibilities in life.
And that started when you were a little girl. I know
Yeah,
from our
yeah.
conversations in the past that
Yeah. Mhm.
you overcame bullies in the street when you were playing as a little girl.
Yes,
You
yes.
didn't let anybody push you around.
No.
You sound like an Italian kid to me, but you're German.
Sometimes I do think I have Italian in me. Absolutely. Because thankfully, there were not that many kids who were bullied. Actually, it was the adults who were sometimes more cruel than the kids. But even then, as a little kid, I always had this don't mess with me kind of attitude. And I just had that. And I believed in myself. And that's the part where my parents come in. Never let anybody tell you that you're less because you're capable and you're beautiful exactly the way you are. And that
Absolutely.
has, I mean, what an upbringing that
That's
that
wonderful.
really has helped me.
That's really wonderful. Folks, I say all the time, God doesn't make mistakes and he doesn't make any junk. And if he made us in his
No,
likeness, we're all beautiful and
yes,
we're all capable of something. It's when we
absolutely.
allow ourselves to believe that we can't, that we don't.
Yes,
When you think you can, you
absolutely.
do.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. That's so true. You just have to believe in yourself. And I agree. At times, it is difficult. Really, kind of one of the examples, I think you have Italian roots. Now I've learned Italian for 2.5 years, and I'm intermediate speaker. But I think, oh my gosh, why can't I speak better? We'll never learn Italian.
You
What a
probably already
difficult
speak it better
language.
than I do. Because
I don't know about that, but I believe in myself that step by step, I will get there. And that's what I'm telling people in my speeches and also in my book. It is step by step, also like a marathon. I finished the marathon in 2019, and a year later, I finished 2 half marathons. So each 13.2 miles, or 13.1 mile. And it's you don't look at the full distance. You don't look at the how to overcome your adversity. You look step by step and you think, what do I need to do to get to the step? And because when I standing at the sign of a marathon, there's no way I'm ever getting to Santa Mona again, which is 26.2 miles. No, you look right in front of you and you have a plan. Okay, when I'm here, then I'm going to do ABC, and I just step by step. And that has helped me so much in my life because people become so overwhelmed by adversity. And I do too. I'm just a normal human being. I do get overwhelmed too at times
sure, we all
until
do.
I just take a breather. Look at my English today. A breather. And okay, Sabine, what is it you got to do? I know I can do this. It's just a question of how and what are the steps.
Are these part of the things that you help to instruct or motivate people with when you speak?
Yes, absolutely. Because the push, as you have seen in the book, and it's really detailed in the book, and we don't have the time to detail this now. There's 6 principles to the push. It is hope, it is positive mindset, it is reframing your adversity, and it's courage. It's a truckload of courage at times,
Mm.
and it's resilience, and the famous one, the perseverance. And and as you know,
Yeah,
I go step by step how to achieve, but you gotta get my book, right, Carl?
absolutely. You must get this book. Must get this book. I don't know if it's showing it in mirror version or pick it up like
I
that, but
see it. Yeah,
yeah.
I see it.
But you must get this book, and we'll have, ladies and gentlemen watching the show, at the end of the program, you'll see in the show notes how to contact
Yeah.
Sabine, how to reach her, ask questions, invite her to be a guest or a speaker at your events and for your association. But you'll also see a link where to buy the book.
Yes.
You'll see a link how to get to Amazon. You'll know how to. You can just click it and buy
Yep.
it, and
Super
I
simple.
think that's wonderful. We should support one another that way, and this book is a step by step
Yes.
roadmap on
Yeah.
how to overcome many, many adversities in our lives.
Yeah.
Yours is physical, but they were emotional also as a result of the physical things. We
Absolutely.
all have these kinds of setbacks. And if we learn how to discipline ourselves and how to visualize yourself where we want to be, where do you want to get? We can get there. There are tools, there are rules, and you're a living example of it.
Yeah.
You have it all documented here, and I think that's wonderful. And ladies and gentlemen, this lady has lived through many, many hardships. I know it's,
Yeah.
you think to yourself, isn't it bad enough that she was a thalidomide child? Well, she's also had a stroke. And I could tell you that story is it's harrowing to think of it. I had a stroke myself 10 years ago, but I was in the confines of my home
Yeah.
when it happened. You were on a highway overlooking a drop off in the mountain, driving a car. Tell us about that story.
Yeah. Somebody said to me the other day, it's that event, the stroke event, is almost like a cinematic type thing,
It
because
is.
I mean, who does this, right? So I was driving with a friend. I was driving, and thankfully he was in the passenger seat. Kim was his name, and we were in a remote area on a highway in northern New Mexico, and that's a very isolated place. And you have read it, and I really have described it in very colorful terms because it sticks so much in my mind how it happened. Just suddenly there was something wrong with my vision, and it got worse and worse. And I saw colors like orange, red, just yellow. It just was bizarre. And the mountains were changing. I still remember the end of the Rocky Mountains is the southern end of the Rocky Mountains, and they were looking like jagged teeth reaching into the red sky. The sky was not red, but in front of my eyes it was red. And then I passed out driving my car. And last thing I know, that car was pointing towards the Rio Grande River. And had my friend Tim not reacted as fast as he did react, grabbing the steering wheel in the last second, you, Carl, and I, we would never talk because we would have gone into the Rio Grande River. And, that's
That's it.
and that's it. And then also, it's a very remote area without cell phone reception. And again, I call it in my book, I call it in my speeches, my stroke of luck. And people always like, when I give a speech, what did she say? Just say, huh? How can a stroke be a stroke of luck? But because I didn't end up in the Rio Grande River, number
That's right.
one. And number
Right.
two, a police officer happened to come by on a very isolated road who could dispatch the life flight helicopter, which happened to be able to land 2 or 3 miles up the road. So all they had to do drive me up there to and that was in the forest, right? And there just happened to be a landing spot. I don't even know if I say
Listen
that
to
in the
this
book.
language. Just happened to be, could do this, and
Hmm?
he did that. And just that policeman just happened to listen to that list of
Yeah,
coincidences.
no. And
I don't
yeah,
believe in coincidence. I think that was God intervening in your life big
absolutely.
time that day.
Absolutely, 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 absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. It happened to be, it depends who you talk to. Some people think it's like stroke of luck, but I know God gave me a second chance to make a
Absolutely.
difference in this world. And I have grabbed that second chance because life is very precious. Here I was at 50 years old, perfectly healthy, perfectly capable, and out of nowhere, I had a stroke driving my car. I mean, the chances to survive this are very, very minute. I had 1 year of rehabilitation, physical, occupational, and speech therapy because I couldn't walk, I couldn't speak, and I could not use my left foot, which is my dominant foot. Did we tell our listeners and viewers that I use my feet for all daily tasks? Did we say that?
Not yet, but this is
Okay.
something that I was thinking in the back of my mind. People are watching this and they're saying, she
Yes.
was driving?
Yeah.
She was driving? Yes, she drives with her feet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think
Not
there's a
not not a
photo.
customized car.
No,
Any car.
any car. Actually, I was in Germany for and Italy, how crazy they're driving
Oh
out.
yeah. Yeah.
But
I
I
never
was
drive in
driving.
Italy.
Absolutely, I can drive any car as long as it has automatic gear shift. And yeah, so let's just say, I have learned as a very young child how to use my feet as my hands. And I want our listeners and viewers to imagine all the things you all are doing with your hands. I use my feet, including driving my non-modified car. And knock on wood, I have never been in over 40 years. I don't even dare thinking how long I've been driving. In over 40 years, I never had an accident because even that day of a stroke, I did not crash the car. So I've never had an accident in 40
Amazing.
plus years of driving. And so I feel this was a stroke of luck, as a wake up call, a rude and rough wake up call for sure. I
Yeah.
got knocked on the head for sure,
Yeah.
but it woke me up. And today I make a difference in people's lives by giving presentations by my keynote and people also by my book. Now I'm really super proud because I really want them to embrace the power and the mindset of push because I know the power in the Power of P.U.S.H. to be a rebel against whatever adversity. And I'm saying it in my speeches. You don't need to have a disability. You don't need to have had a stroke. Adversity comes in all kind of shapes.
Absolutely.
And and one of these things is what I've seen when I'm working with people. It's about how to overcoming these limiting beliefs some people have. I can't do, oh, this will never happen. That is so difficult to overcome that. And I've had that too. Oh my God, what job am I going to have? Is anybody ever going to give me a job? Of course they did. But it was just this little, I think I call it during my speech, the snake of doubt. Because I see it as this coiled snake who's whispering in your ear, oh, it's never going to happen.
Yeah,
You're
you
never
can't do
going to
that.
do
You
that.
can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So, I'm a storyteller. My grandmother was a storyteller and told me a lot of stories. So I always have these vivid images, of the lake of doubt. Lake of,
Well, they're good because they help people visualize things and
visualize. Yeah.
be able to understand a very complex situation or comment.
Absolutely.
So it reduces
Absolutely.
it to the human condition and people can relate
Yeah.
to that. So I want to go back
Absolutely.
a moment because in
Mhm.
your book on page 79,
Ooh.
she lists the things about a stroke, which you have to be aware of. And she labels them as fast,
Yeah.
F-A-S-T.
Mhm.
And she has them all here. And
Yeah.
this could be life-changing for many
Yeah.
people. If you read
Excellent.
this and become used to seeing and understanding those things,
Mhm.
you can look for those signs in yourself when something is coming
Yes.
and not be out on
Absolutely.
the mountain driving a car.
No.
Pull the car to the side when you still can.
Yeah.
But
But
these are wonderful things to know. I wish I had known them before I had my stroke, but these are wonderful things to know, and you really should read it and understand it. Page 79, second count, fast, F-A-S-T. Very important to know.
absolutely. And I really want to say something about fast. I did have, you probably read it, I did have an early warning sign. It was, did I? Yeah, I did mention that in the book. I did have an early warning sign, and it's so important because part of what I'm doing is stroke education. Don't stick your head in the sand like I did. I was really super busy that morning of May 17, 2012. And but I noticed with my left hand, I carried a cup. And suddenly I feel that my left hand went limp and I almost dropped the cup because I couldn't feel my hand anymore. I did not drop the cup. It returned right away to normal feeling. But that was my early warning sign. Had I gone to the ER or urgent care, I would not have had the full-blown stroke. They could have still given me medication to bust that blood clot, which
Yeah,
was
busted.
developing. And that I
Yeah.
do regret. And that's why I really, if you have, go to page 75 and read about the early warning signs. It's super important.
Very important. And
Yeah.
there are many different kinds of strokes. So
Oh, yeah.
you had a blockage or a blood clot.
Yes.
Mine was a hemorrhagic, which is a bleeder. It was a
Oh,
broken
yeah.
blood vessel
Oh.
in my brain. So
Oh, yeah.
there were other signs, but they happened so rapidly, I couldn't
Yeah.
have stopped it anyway. But,
Right. Definitely.
ironically, yours was in 2012. Mine was April 11th, 2011.
Oh, my
And
goodness. So
here we
within a
are.
year.
Yeah, look at that. Here we are. We both have overcome these
Yeah.
dangerously debilitating, potentially fatal
Absolutely.
strokes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
told my wife I wasn't going to survive the night. And here I am. Look, nothing holds me back. Nothing.
No, you're as vibrant as always. I mean, look at you. Yeah,
Praise God for that.
we were both doers and survivors.
That's right. To me, that means we have work to do.
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
given second chances because we're not supposed to sit on our duffs. We're supposed to get
No.
out there and get something done. That's why we do this
Absolutely.
podcast. For
Absolutely.
Sabine and I to come here and tell you, get off the couch, do something. Get off the couch.
Absolutely. Get off that couch. I like sitting on the couch, but after 5 minutes, I get bored sitting on that couch.
So
because there's so
Sabine
much to
also had
do.
to suffer through the emotion. She has a wonderful, beautiful son. And as she
Yes.
said, she's now not only a mother and a grandmother,
Mhm.
but she had was a beautiful son who unfortunately got ill at a very young age. And but for her faith and love and her son's girlfriend, now wife, and their
Yeah.
attention to him, they helped him through it enormously, which is another point that's so important. We have to love each other in this world, you know?
Yes.
When we see somebody in trouble, we have to come forward no matter what our illnesses are,
Absolutely.
no matter what our misgivings or inabilities to help and do things. We have to come forward and try to help other people. I'm
Completely.
truly convinced that your love for your son and his
Oh,
wife's
yeah.
love for him motivated him to. I mean, you were an inspiration from the day he was born, but the motivation that he got at the time when he was ill had to help him through it. Had to.
Yeah, I hope so. And he has seen me. He was 21 when he got diagnosed with ALL, which is a very aggressive, it stands for acute lymphocytic leukemia. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's a form of very aggressive leukemia. But Nicola, my son, has seen me for 21 years facing challenges, facing adversity, and stumbling sometimes through it, but at least going forward through adversity and having that push to persevere until success happens. And that's what he saw. And for 3.5 years of chemotherapy, he is today cancer free and gave me 3 beautiful little grandchildren.
Ah,
Like,
the joy of your
yeah.
life. Yeah.
Oh my
I there were
gosh, and they're beautiful.
there are pictures of them in the book also, folks, and I'm going to try and
Yes.
get some pictures
Woohoo.
to include
Yeah, show
in this show
everybody.
because there are beautiful pictures in this book of
Yeah.
Sabine when she was a child and with her parents and with her child, her son, and her grandchildren, and the kind of radiance in her smile that shows through. It's just wonderful. You gotta get this book. It's an important book. So very important. So what's next, Sabine? Now you wrote the Great American. No, it's not a novel, but it's a
Yeah.
description.
The great
What's next on
American.
your agenda?
Now, next, I do what I love the most. I'm very, very extroverted person. I love standing on a stage. I love giving my keynote speech. I love to inspire and motivate and just push people a little bit out of the comfort zone because I'm
Yeah.
asking them to get out of that comfort zone and challenge adversity. And the way I do that, what I do the best is stand on a stage and give presentations. And I love to do that because I see it in people. They're so inspired. They're walking away. Well, what do I have to complain about? I can do that. If she can do it, I can do it. They get the book. I get phone calls or texts later on how much the book has helped them. And that's why I give a lot of speeches. I travel a lot. And I hope your viewers gonna invite me for a keynote, no matter where in the United States. I would just love and change your audience mindset. Well, it just be an example that everything is possible, no matter what you have to do and how you persevere through adversity. That's what's next. And
What a
I
wonderful woman
started,
you
oh
are.
my gosh, I have never had so many speeches because of that book. It took off really wonderful. And suddenly people, oh, wow, we gotta have her. And I
That's
love
great.
traveling to boot. So,
That's great. So,
yeah.
folks, remember when you
Yeah.
do the show notes, there's a place for comments. You can not
Yes.
only write to Sabine, but you can put comments down about what you think about the show and her comments. If you have any questions or if you have any opinions that you'd like to have voiced out, put them in the comments. We'll get back to you. Don't worry about it. So, Sabine, I just love having you on my show. I do. I
Oh my
think you're a
goodness.
marvel, and you know that. You know I'm your best fan. I
Oh
just think you're
yeah.
wonderful. I think
Yeah.
you're wonderful. And anytime that you write another book, I'll have you back on the show, or you can come back anyway
Absolutely.
just to chat. Because
I can come
I
back
love
anyway.
having you on the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today. I want to
Yes.
remind you, we come out with a new show every Wednesday. We bring wonderful people like Sabine If you have a suggestion for someone you'd like to see on the show, please send me their name and we'll interview them and we'll have them on. I'll ask Sabine if she's a person that this is a person we should have on the show. If she says yes, we'll have you on the show. And then,
Yes.
and I also want to remind you that subscribe and like and all those things that people do. Not for sponsorship, because this show has no sponsor but my book. My book is the only sponsor of this show. It's just so that I know we're doing something that's meaningful and it's reaching people. So subscribe and like and make comments. I also want to remind you that everybody has their own story. I know you have your story, and no one can tell it like you can. No one can tell Sabine's story like she can, and no one can tell mine like I can. But no one can tell your story but you. Write it down. Share it with friends and neighbors. Share it with loved ones. Because if you don't, when it's too late, it's too late. All that wisdom is gone. And if you want to be on the show, write in and tell us what it's about. We'll give you a chance to come on the show. And I'm going to close this with the same thing I say every week. I know I'm this big, blustery guy from Brooklyn, but I know this about life. Get somebody a note today and a hug and tell them you love them. Tell them you love them. It may be the only time they hear those words. Let them know God loves them and you do also. So Sabine, if you were there, baby, I'd give you a big hug and tell you I
Oh,
love
that
you.
would be wonderful. Okay.
Because you know I
But
love
we
you.
are on opposite coasts.
Yeah, well, she's in California and I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
We will do this again.
Oh my goodness, Carl, this has been such a pleasure. It's always so good to see you and to inspire people. And just let's do this together and inspire others. And just give you a hug. Whoop, whoop.
I agree. I love you, baby. Bye-bye.
Love you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
all.
Bye.
See you soon.